Profit and loss, as we have learned recently, that it is a function of finding the difference between the cost price and the selling price. Okay, selling price is abbreviated as SP and the cost price is abbreviated as CP. Okay, and as long as selling price is bigger than the cost price, we always gain money, right? And it is a positive cash flow for us, correct? At the same time, whenever we run into a business situation that the selling price becomes less than the cost price, we run into a loss, and that situation is represented by the negative cash flow, correct? But in the end, the concept of whether you are making money or whether you are losing money comes by finding the differential in the selling price versus the cost price. Okay, but profit or loss, it is always a relevant figure, relevant to how much we really invested, correct? So that is why it is more important for us to find the profit or loss percentage, and that percentage comes by finding the profit or loss, the actual dollar value, right, to the cost price. Okay, because cost price is something that we have invested that much money in our business transaction, correct? And once we get that ratio, the ratio of gain or loss to the cost price, then we multiply that ratio with 100, and this gives you the percentage value of profit and loss. Okay, now this specific piece of information, that cost price goes in the denominator, it is very important for us to remember this logic, because whatever you are gaining or losing is always relevant to how much you have invested. Okay, that is why cost price goes in the denominator. Okay, because what you invested is what your cost is. I have seen students sometimes by mistake putting the selling price in the denominator, and that will be wrong in calculation of this profit or loss percentage. All right, so this is crucial for us to keep in mind, that whenever we are calculating the profit or loss percentage, it is always with reference to the cost price. Okay, so now let us go through some examples to understand this specific concept a little better. Okay, so my very first example is that the cost price of an article is $65, so that is one piece of information, and the selling price is $50. What is the profit or loss in such transaction as percentage? Okay, so first let us find the dollar value of the profit or loss made in this transaction. So we see that the selling price is 65 and the cost price is 50. It is already given to us. Let me write this here. So this is the selling price and this is the cost price. Okay, now we know that 65 is bigger than 50, right? So we made profit, and the dollar value of that profit is 65 minus 50, which is $15. So that is my profit in dollars. Okay, very simple, correct? Now let us calculate the percentage profit. And just by looking at this formula, we see that the percentage of profit is the ratio of profit made versus the cost price, and the cost price in this case was $50, right? So that is 50, and of course we need to multiply that with 100 to calculate the percentage, right? So the simple math is 50 divides 100 and it becomes 2, and then you are left with 15 multiplied with 2, and that becomes 30. So your profit is 30% in this transaction, and that is our answer here. $15 is the profit and it is 30%. Let us look at another scenario in which the cost price of 6 apples is the same thing as the selling price of 5 apples, and we are required to find the profit percentage. All right, so look at the statement. You are not given the exact price of 6 apples or 5 apples, or the exact selling price of 6 apples or 5 apples. You are just given this information, that the cost price of 6 is equal to selling price of 5. So how you will solve the equation when you are not given the cost price or the selling price? Either one of those. We don't have that, right? So let's make a simple assumption. Let's say the cost price of 1 apple is equal to $1. It is just an assumption for us, okay? In that case, I will say that the cost price of 5 apple will be what? It will be $5, right? And the cost price of 6 apples, it will be $6. You simply multiply 1 with 5 and 1 with 6 in this respective statement, correct? So by this assumption, we know the cost price of 5 and cost price of 6 apples. Okay, now let us look at the selling price side. Okay, the selling price from the given statement, the selling price of 5 apples. Let me just write the word A instead of apples all the time. So the selling price of 5 apples is equal to the cost price of 6 apples, right? And what is the cost price of 6 apples? From this assumption, we can tell that it is equal to $6. Simple enough, right? But from this specific assumption right here, we know that the cost price of 5 apples is equal to $5. Now, by making this simple assumption right here, which is done at the very beginning, we know the cost price of 5 apples and we know the selling price of 5 apples. Now, given these two pieces of information, we can calculate our profit very easily, right? The profit is equal to the selling price minus the cost price, because now we have both of that for this transaction of selling 5 apples, right? And that becomes 6 minus 5, that is equal to $1. Now, once you know the profit, it is not hard to calculate the profit as percentage. So the profit as percentage will be profit, right? Profit over cost price times 100, which is 1 over 5 times 100. 5 cancels, it becomes 20, so this becomes 20%. Hence, our profit in this transaction or in this deal will be 20%.